What's going on, Conscious Crew? It's your favorite breakdown commentator. Welcome to another riveting episode of the Consciouztv platform. You already know what we are here to get into. Before we do so, please go ahead and thumbs up the video until it's absolutely stuck. You guys know that thumbing up the video not only helps with YouTube's algorithm, but more importantly, it triggers up YouTube's notification system. So when you are thumbing up the video, you are literally knocking on the digital door of another Conscious Crew member and telling them to get their black asses into the sanctuary, because the Kang is in fact Kanging. Also, make sure that if you're new here, that you guys are subscribed. We are an all-purpose platform over here. We do it all literally. So there's something here for a little bit of you, a little bit of them, there's a little bit of that, and there's a little bit of this, okay? Also, make sure that you guys have your notification bell set to all so that you never miss a day or hour when the Kang is in fact Kanging. And last but not least, please share the stream out to wherever it is you have digital community, whether that be your YouTube community wall, your Snapchat, your MySpace, the dark side of Twitter, Tumblr, or your personal OF. I don't really give a damn where you in fact lay the link. Just let them whores know that we're loud, we're live, and we're certainly in color. And last but definitely not least is, if you support the Kang and you appreciate everything that I do over here, you can always donate to the platform at $Consciouztv on Cash App and or paypal.me/Consciouztv, and that's conscious with the Z on the end, spelled just like it is here on the channel. All donation and social media handles are in the description box below. With no further ado, let's go ahead and push on through.
I know a place where you can recharge your soul.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
And in the midst of brokenness, he gon' see your asshole.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
You gon' heal, you gon' laugh and catch a little shade.
Ooh, girl.
Y'all know he be slaying, y'all better stop playing. Come hear what he's saying.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You guys know it's been a long year and 1 month for the Diddler since he's been indicted as a result of trying to play on Cassie's head top and act like she wasn't going to do what she said she would do if he didn't want to settle out of court and just go ahead and run her $30 million, that she would then go ahead and file suit accordingly. So he caught himself calling her bluff, girl. And probably one of the biggest mistakes of Diddy's life, because it is literally Cassie's lawsuit that led to every bit of this. Literally, her lawsuit is what opened up the floodgates. That's what put Diddy on the radar of the feds. That's what led to his home being raided. That's what led to indictments and ultimately led to a 4-year prison sentence. And we're here to talk about it. Now, Diddy recently made his final appearance regarding his sentencing hearing after avoiding the 2 major charges that he was facing, which was for racketeering and S3x trafficking. Okay, those were the charges that were the most serious, that would have came with him doing the most time. He was left with the lesser offenses, which had to do with prostitution. The judge had plenty of people write in their character witness statements. Everybody from Carisha Police Girl wrote in a letter supporting her man. Cassie wrote in a letter windmilling for her life and saying that she was afraid and in fear for her safety, as well as most of Diddy's relatives, including his mother, who revealed that she's a diabetic and has health issues, and Sean apparently is the only one that takes care of her, aka swiping that black card. Girl, for all of those beauty supply store extra large ass wigs she be wearing out to the courthouse, child, but that's another story for another day for sure. Even to 50 Cent trolling Diddy and also writing a letter to the judge to keep Diddy ass locked the fuck up. We're getting into all of that, all right? So Diddy was sentenced to 50 months in prison, which is a total of 4 years for his prostitution charges. However, people are saying between the time he's already served and good behavior, more than likely Diddy will probably do somewhere around 18 months of that 4 years, which is practically a year and a half worth of time. So Diddy will more than likely be coming home 2027-ish. Okay. Now, the judge also slapped Diddy with some other penalties as well, which we're going to get into here. Okay. The sentencing judge also fined Diddy $500,000, the maximum the judge could impose. Judge Arun noted that it was an upward variation from the sentencing guidelines, explaining that it was necessary given Combs' immense resources, which enabled his crime. So, girl, the judge is trying to empty those motherfucking pockets, okay? Another one of the interesting penalties, apparently, that's going to come out of Diddy being found guilty for prostitution is that Diddy allegedly is going to have to register. Yes, Diddy is going to be joining Kenneth Petty on that registry. Check this out. Media Takeout has confirmed that Diddy Combs now is officially classified as a registered S3x offender under federal law, a stunning and career-shattering development for the once untouchable music mogul. According to the federal guidelines, anyone convicted of violating the Mann Act, a law that criminalizes the transportation of individuals across state lines for illegal sexual purposes, is required to register nationally as a XCX offender. Diddy's conviction earlier this year triggered the mandatory registration process. Paperwork filed on Friday. Media Takeout's insiders tell us the official registration paperwork was filed on Friday, shortly after Diddy's sentencing hearing in New York federal court. The process is handled through the U.S. Department of Justice XCX Offender Registration and Notification Act, which ensures that all qualifying offenders are entered into a nationwide database. While the registration is federal, each state will maintain its own record, meaning Diddy's name will appear on multiple state and national registries within the next week or so. Jesus. Quote, this is optional, one legal source explained. Quote, once a person is convicted of a Mann Act violation, registration is automatic. Diddy's team doesn't have any way to stop it. The ramifications are severe. Most states require offenders to disclose their residence and any changes to local law enforcement, and there are strict restrictions on where registered offenders can live and or travel. That means the Bad Boy Records founder will be barred from living near schools, playgrounds, and may face serious limitations on international travel, especially to countries that ban entry to registered offenders. Wow. Even after he completes his sentence, Diddy will be prohibited from working around children, which includes youth-oriented entertainment projects, charities, and community programs. Legal experts tell Media Takeout that Diddy's high profile won't protect him from compliance checks. Quote, he'll have to follow the same rules as anyone else, one said. That includes regular address verification and ongoing reporting obligations. Just a few years ago, Diddy was one of the most celebrated figures in American pop culture, a billionaire mogul, philanthropist, and global ambassador for hip-hop. Now, following his 50 months federal prison sentence and mandatory registration as a XCX offender, his legacy has been permanently scarred. Industry insiders tell Media Takeout that brands, networks, and even former collaborators are now cutting ties completely. This is it for him, one source said. No one in entertainment can afford to be associated with the registered offender, especially not in 2025. Diddy's attorneys are expected to file an appeal, of course, of both his conviction and sentence. But even if he were to win a partial reversal, his status as a registered offender could take years to undo, if ever. But now, the once invincible music mogul finds himself in a new reality, behind bars, branded for life, and erased from the industry he helped to build. My God, today. Never thought, for one, that he would end up in prison, yet alone on the registry with R. Kelly and Kenneth freaking Petty Minaj Jr., the freaking third. Girl, this is gruesome. Wow, 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 wow. But appropriate. All right. Diddy begs judge to let him spend his 4-year sentence at a low-level New Jersey prison. So you guys know, as Diddy was getting prepped for his sentencing hearing, he enrolled in a bunch of programs, ones that essentially help inmates and their temperament and their mental health, etc. All, of course, in an attempt to appear as if he's being rehabilitated and capable of walking upright. Obviously, that didn't work out too well for him. Nonetheless, because he has been staying out of trouble in prison, he's begging the judge to let him spend it in a prison where he has more access and there are less restrictions. Sean Diddy Combs, sentenced to 4 years for 2 counts of transportation for prostitution, has requested to serve his sentence at FCI, Fort Dix, a low security prison in New Jersey instead of the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, where he's been held since September of 2024. His legal team cited access to the residential drug abuse treatment program and better family visitation opportunities at FCI Fort Dix. Combs described MDC conditions as inhumane, citing no clean water and fear of violence. He expressed remorse for his actions, including attacking ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura, and claims jail has changed him. With 13 months served, he could be released by November of 2028 and faces a $500,000 fine. Combs has been running an entrepreneurship course at MDC to aid fellow inmates. Of course, yeah, to keep them from whipping his ass. Of course, child. But, I also want to talk about this notion that Diddy has been rehabilitated. We know that that is in no way, shape, or form true. And it's really just the irony of his legal team attempting to really convince the same judge that Diddy is rehabilitated when they are literally also requesting the courts to retry Diddy, even having Diddy argue that what he was doing wasn't even wrong because he is an amateur porn director. And what him and Cassie and his girlfriends were making with these male escorts was art. So they literally can't even see that they're contradicting themselves. On one hand, you can't claim that Diddy is being rehabilitated if you're also arguing that Diddy didn't even do anything wrong and he should have a retrial or a mistrial, and everything that's been laid against him needs to be overturned. And this is what happens when you don't literally think your solution through, because solutions have to make sense and they have to have something called continuity. Okay, consistency. So he's innocent, but yet you're arguing he's rehabilitated. Rehabilitated from what? If he's done nothing wrong and he's not a sexual deviant, abuser, monster, cokehead, crackhead, pink cocaine sniffer. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. So there's another authoritarian branch that's responsible for where Diddy will be serving his 4 years, his year and a half, essentially. And we'll see what they do. So someone who's very happy that Diddy, in fact, will be remaining behind bars for the next few years is no other than industry troll 50 freaking cents, who you guys know wrote in a letter to Judge Arone claiming that he's afraid for his life and Diddy is so dangerous, etc., etc., etc. Well, 50 Cent reacts to Diddy's prison sentence by taking to his social media and saying this: Hey to whoever was booking Diddy for speaking engagements. I heard he won't be able to make it. Shrugs. I'm available though. Laughing emoji at 50 Centation. My God, today, baby. 50 Cent is a whole riot. A whole entire riot, child. Now, Diddy's family, of course, could be seen coming in and out of the courts to bear witness to the sentencing and to hopefully walk their father and loved one out and take him home. This here is footage of the sons and the daughters and the things arriving. Oh, Lord. Here is Janice Combs, honey, looking like the Tubi version of Mary J. Blige. You know, we know she was going to show up, honey. You know, she can't go, 48 hours without tongue kissing her son, child. She definitely need him free. All right, here's more of the children's pooching through, honey, in good spirits, anticipating the return of Daddy Diddy. And here is their energy after exiting the courts, honey, okay? Here are the daughters who were also being said to have cried their eyeballs out. Apparently, it was a very, very, very emotional time in the court with everybody pleading and begging Judge Arone to free Diddy for various reasons. And apparently following the sentencing and Diddy realizing he was going to be serving 4 years more in prison, he fell to his knees, girl. Okay, doggy style, which is ironic because, he fell to the same position he was coercing and bullying Cassie into. For all those years, he had her enduring those freak offs. So, it was a full circle moment for Diddy to finally be on his knees, face down, ass up for once. My God. Now, Diddy's attorneys have also taken to do a press conference. One of them also sat down with TMZ. We're going to get into both of those things. And here is a bit of an excerpt from Diddy's legal team outside the court following the sentencing.
Yeah, we are planning to appeal. I'm gonna hit him, bro. We are planning to appeal. We think we have strong bases to appeal. The strongest basis is that the jury reached a verdict on coercion. It found there was not coercion, and I think the judge said coercion today as a basis for a sentence at least a dozen times. We think that is unconstitutional. We think that a jury verdict should mean more than our jury's verdict seems to mean, and so we are planning to appeal.
Absolutely. Files a cross appeal. What would happen in that regard if they filed a cross appeal and then Sean Diddy Combs get a higher sentence?
He would not get a higher sentence, and they're not gonna cross appeal. We're gonna appeal. We think we're right, and they'll respond to the appeal, and it'll be decided by the Second Circuit as soon as.
Tell us about the conversation you had with your client after the sentencing. Consensual. The judge clearly thought the sexual encounters weren't consensual.
Because he's biased.
Make of his remarks.
He's biased. I'm happy to go. So we think that's just absolutely inconsistent with the jury's verdict. I mean, the jury's verdict was resoundingly clear. There was no sex trafficking. There was no racketeering. Everything was consensual. Everything was adult, which is why he was convicted only of the prostitution offense. What we feel happened today was that the judge acted as a 13th juror, one that we did not choose, and that he second-guessed the jury's verdict. So, yeah, we are.
Wooch, girl. That's going to be interesting to see how those arguments roll over in the coming appeal, which so far all of the appeals have been rejected. But those are some pretty logical arguments. Fascinating. All right. But the attorneys are not stopping there, girl. They are working overtime to stay on Diddy's payroll, honey, especially with Christmas coming up and inflation and cost of living going up, girl. They need employment, child. So you know that they're fighting for everything they can on behalf of Diddy so that those invoices can continue to clear. Check this out. Diddy's lawyer, Mark, says that Combs should worry about sexual assault in prison. My God, today.
Are you concerned that Sean Diddy Combs could be sexually assaulted, violently assaulted? Is that a thing? Because based on what was said in court, it feels like a thing.
Yeah, it clearly is a thing. I mean, they're already, and he did not want to make a big deal of it. They already tried to shank it once at the MDC, and that was thwarted. And it happens in prison. I mean, you and I could tick off how many times we are aware of somebody getting seriously injured or killed in prison. And so they're going to have to keep him somewhere that they can keep an eye on him. It would have obviously been better if he had gotten less time and had been at a camp. But he's going to be in a facility where somebody's going to have to, from the BOP, and I think, they're well equipped to do it if they can, to keep an eye on him because he is a target.
So let's say he is sent to a minimum security prison. Is he out of the woods when it comes to that kind of assault?
If you're going, you and I talked about Ghislaine Maxwell, who went from the one place in Florida, which was a higher level, not a camp. And she was transferred after she did the interview with the couple-day interview. She was transferred to what they call a camp in Texas, which I'm familiar with. I've had other clients in. So a camp is generally one of the better places to be. And the reason for that is because a camp is basically you get certain privileges. And if you step off of the line, so to speak, if you violate, if you do anything that is not according to Hoyle, they will immediately send you someplace a lot more onerous. So that's why I say, in a long-winded answer to your question, yes, you've got to get designated somebody. I know he wants to be New York adjacent. If I'm Sean right now, I'm going to be angling for someplace like Lompoc satellite camp or something along those lines.
But that still doesn't answer. Is he out of the woods when it comes to being sexually or in any way assaulted by being in a minimum security prison?
Look, it's a prison. Anywhere you go is a prison. You always have to watch your back, literally. And if that's the case, you're never really out of the woods until you're released. Or you go to a halfway house, or you get into one of the programs. But if you are in a camp or in a low-level designation, your odds go down dramatically.
Wow there, you guys. So you guys heard that. That's kind of ironic that a man who was on trial for S3x trafficking, and where witnesses, including some of the S3x workers, testified to witnessing Cassie being beat in the hotel, being beat in the other room, Cassie enduring freak-offs that left her with venereal infections and bruising and various injuries, is now the same man who is having to fear being assaulted by a bunch of other sexually deviant individuals who could be his cellmate, who could be right across the hall from him, who could be, etc. It's just the irony of it all, that everything that he's never been concerned about happening to the women who were sometimes, unfortunately, willing to endure this treatment because of money or proximity or looking at Diddy as a lick, and or who were all out full on victimized and coerced like some aspects of Cassie's experience, who were blackmailed at times, who were beaten into submission at times, who were threatened at times, who had her boyfriends threatened at times. Now the same man is afraid, and is afraid of what sexually may happen to him. I mean, this is almost a perfect karmic justice. This is almost perfect karmic justice. Wow. Diddy also is continuing to face various lawsuits. He just recently had a lawsuit filed against him by one of his ex-stylists. And now he's also had a civil lawsuit filed against him by a man who is claiming that he contracted HIV after sexual assault from unknown person at an after party, also courtesy of TMZ Girl. And of course, this isn't the first time that we have heard about herpes and or HIV, because there was one of Diddy's and Cassie's S3x workers, Jonathan Odie, who was initially supposed to testify in this trial, who also exposed that he had contracted herpes from Cassie. So, baby, this is a whole hot mess. And now that the federal trial is over, Diddy will get to battling it out with these civil suits. And I'll read this suit, you guys, and we'll come back and talk about it more in depth. So this is my conclusion and some of the things that I'm thinking. I don't feel sorry for Diddy. There's a conversation that is going on right now amongst members of the Black community that because of the prostitution charges, Diddy should not be in prison for 4 years. You know, this has really been a slap on the wrist type of a offense. The fact that he's serving 4 years, some people feel like that is an overreach and that is an extreme, and it is unnecessary and hell, even undamn just. I am going to disagree with that for this reason. I'm somebody who believes that powerful people need to be held to powerful penalty and powerful accountability to maintain check and balances amongst the powerful, which currently does not exist, which is why politicians and Hollywood and government are completely out of control, because there are not enough check and balance systems in place. Even the judge recognizing that by fining Diddy $500,000 simply because of his wealth, I find to be really justified, because this is a man with immense privilege due to his stardom, due to his access, and he's been using that stardom, that access, and that wealth to cause immense harm to people. Even though we're dealing specifically in this case with the issue of SHREX trafficking and racketeering, we're also not going to pretend as if we didn't see Diddy beating the hell out of a 115-pound Cassie who is walking away and getting dragged and thrown and stomped and beat. Not to mention that we're not going to erase how Diddy has locked most of the talent over at Bad Boy Records in horrendous and career-stripping contracts, holding on to people's likeness, holding on to their royalties, not allowing people to buy themselves out of these piss-poor contracts that they signed at a time where they were trying to get out of the hood, and they thought that this was really going to be a come up, and they trusted Diddy, only to find out in the end that they got bamboozled and hoodwinked and ultimately signed a contract that made them indentured servants and slaves to Diddy, while he continued to make maximum profit off of their art. So when I look at the totality of who Diddy is, also regarding the young woman that he shot in the face at that nightclub, that he was initially going to let J-Lo take the fall for, that initially Shine took the rap for, not to mention the other incident that Diddy got to walk away with, where he threw that college party or threw that event for those college students, and it resulted in a young woman losing her life, and how Diddy didn't even want to pay the family out, etc., even though he was the one who did not put the proper safety protocol in place to ensure that people would be safe at his event. I mean, Diddy has gotten away with a lot of shit. And people are still not completely confident that he had nothing to do with the passing of Kim Porter. Diddy's own bodyguards have come forward and said that he offered to pay them 20, 30 grand to unalive Biggie. So there's a lot of dark, nefarious energy around Diddy. And when I look at what he's now going through, all these civil lawsuits that are coming against him, his 4-year sentencing, the fear he's experiencing, the fact that he's going to not be able to watch his children visibly grow up, the fact that he's not going to be able to vacation, he's not going to, also more importantly, be in a position to take advantage of any more talent for the time being. I'm happy that even this minuscule degree of justice has taken place. Diddy abused being a rich person, abused being a powerful person, abused being a person with means. He held that over people's heads and made people do things that were diabolical to their character and to their humanity. People were trying to do was get to a bag so they can take care of their children, take care of their family, leverage their parents, etc., and do something successful with their lives. So I don't care that Diddy got 4 years for a offense that most people just end up on probation for traditionally. I think the judge was completely proper in looking at Diddy as a whole and slapping some weight down on Diddy and seemingly some consequence in an attempt to help Diddy to truly rehabilitate by humbling Diddy so that he could recognize that, yeah, boo, even you too can be touched. Because Diddy has lived in a way up to this point as if he could not be touched, including such an arrogance and narcissism that he also second-guessed Cassie, who made good on her promise that you can pay me out privately and discreetly, nigga, or I can get my coin through suing the shit out of you, because I can back the evidence up on it. And Diddy was so arrogant, so narcissistic, that he even told her, you. And now she's fucking him. And $30 million richer for it. So when you do clown things, you end up at the circus. Now, before I did this commentary, I was mulling over in my mind, is this the end for Diddy? Initially, I was going to say no, because these crimes were committed against women, and the system that we live in doesn't give a fuck about women. So, of course, the misogyny and patriarchy of the world would have allowed Diddy to resurrect on the third day of Easter like Jesus Christ, to pop, lock, and drop amongst the people. However, Diddy ending up on the registry might be the final nail in the coffin, because I have yet to see something like that be played down. And Diddy having to be registered as the STX offender for the rest of his life is going to block so much business. It's going to be able to block so much potential sponsorship once he is free. He will never be able to be sponsored by a children's brand, a toy brand, anything that's marketed toward young people, teenagers, etc. He will not obviously be able to be endorsed with what's remaining of his celebrity following this. He doesn't get to come out of prison and go on some world rehabilitation tour and talk to schools and high school students, etc. This is going to really slice down his money-making and consumer potential because he has to be registered. And the articles are right. There aren't too many corporate businesses that are going to go for that, considering that Diddy always had a major disadvantage in this whole thing to begin with, which was being black. You know, he doesn't have the passing privilege of Donald Trump, someone who's been found guilty of SA. He doesn't have the passing privilege of Elon Musk, who has appeared in the Epstein files and is mentioned in the Epstein files, or any of Diddy's white counterparts who've been able to be found guilty of these things and still move forward in full capacity, hence President of the United States of America. Diddy is a black man. And this whole trial and the publicity behind it was already bad enough and was going to be quite a feat to recover from, even though I do believe patriarchy and misogyny would have allowed Diddy to ultimately recover. But being and having to register yearly as a mandate, that may be the thing that really keeps Diddy ass living in the Underground Railroad, girl. Okay, girl, never to come up again, child. Okay, y'all may be seeing Diddy literally flip burgers. Nope, can't even do that, right? At least not a register, because he may have to come into contact with 4-year-old and 5-year-olds. So that's going to be a critical injury to his celebrity following him completing his sentence. So it's going to be fascinating to see what the aftermath of all of this is. All in all, I stand with the sentencing. And I'm happy that Diddy is getting a taste of his own medicine. He's an abuser. He has tricked off on so many innocent people. He's done immensely dark things. And I'm glad that the judge took all of that into consideration, took what he did to Cassie into consideration, what he did to some of the other female victims in this case, took Diddy's celebrity into the mix, and kind of thought about the future. And made sure that he definitely penalized Diddy in a way that could once again remind Diddy that he is touchable. And that's why ultimately he's living out the consequences of his actions, even though I understand that for some people, even these consequences don't feel like enough, but they're definitely more than what some others thought that Diddy would get, because some people really thought Diddy was going to walk due to him being Diddy, due to him being a man of resource and celebrity. So shout out to Judge Arun. I will keep you guys updated on any further developments. Tell me what you think about the sentencing. Are you happy with it, etc.? What do you think? And where do you think Diddy is going to be spending his time going forward, now that he's completed sentencing, child, and it's time to start serving up that ass and throwing that pussy, child. You guys make sure, once again, to thumbs up the video, share, subscribe. All donation information is in the description box below. Show some love to the Cash App and or to the PayPal. Send me all the tea to Instagram and or my email. You can sign up to Patreon as a way to support the channel as well. I love you guys a long time, and I will see you all later. Peace.